Hi everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Impact and Influence. We are joined by Alex Borthwick from Bresic Whitney, who is the Business Development Executive. Hi Alex, thanks for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So excited about this episode. We have got so much to cover. For those that don't know you, you have been around the industry for, correct me if I'm wrong, 17 years.
17 years, a long, long time.
You've had a few roles in that time. Can you give us your story, where you started and how you ended up where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. My dad had a property background, and I think that's where my initial interest came from to get into real estate. He was in project home sales, so slightly different. But at 21, I decided I was going to be a hotshot real estate agent, not having a single clue of what the industry actually involved. It just looked glamorous and I wanted to be a part of that. So I applied for a sales role for a company in Brisbane when I was living in Queensland. And thankfully they saw something in me and I got brought on board to be the EA to one of the principals, which was a brilliant experience. And the company that I worked for, the principal there has just done wonderful things with the industry. So that foundational training was really, really good. But started as an EA with her, so working alongside her at open homes and doing all of the sales things. And then the company needed support in the property management team to help bring all of the routine inspections up to date. So, of course, I put my hand up and said, yep, happy to help. 2.5 years later with them, I was a property manager, I was a leasing person, I was a new business person, and I wasn't doing sales anymore. So that few weeks helping out doing routine inspections actually started my property management career.
It's interesting how you started in sales and kind of worked your way. Usually it's the other way round.
I've kind of hopped a couple of times throughout the years as well. So when I started with Bresic Whitney, I actually was in the developing sales agent role and then jumped back into property management, which I think is where I've always meant to be.
Yeah, obviously.
Yes.
Obviously. So let's deep dive into that BD role for a little bit. Mm-hmm. Tell me, in today's market, like all of the BDs that I work with, and often the questions that we get is that competitiveness in the market around fees.
Yep.
I know you probably come up against that challenge day to day as well. How do you overcome that?
I think knowing what you can offer and completely believing in yourself, your brand and your company and your team, that's really, really important, especially believing in your team. Because if you can go and sell your team and your company to people wholeheartedly and bring that energy to the conversation, that often sort of fizzles out that fee conversation. So definitely come up against it. You need to be able to back yourself to be able to defend your fee. And I think that if you're not on your game on the day or you're not prepared, you don't believe in what you're doing or your team, then you're going to go straight to the discount.
Yeah, interesting point. What do you do to prepare for an appraisal with your potential clients?
Very, very first thing I do is as soon as I'm making that call to the client, I'm asking a bunch of questions. So it's not a quick conversation to say, hi, where's your property? How many bedrooms? Pretty simple. Let's get it booked in. It's how long have you owned the property for? Why did you buy it? Who did you buy it through? What was that experience like? What's your intentions with the property? Have you had experience in investing before? Is this your first time? A bunch of questions. So pretty much the appraisal's done on the phone before I actually get face to face with the client. So when I do meet with them, it's really just to have a look at the property in person, maybe run through some comparables and then really talk about timeline and next steps.
I love that. So I'm going to recap for all new business managers who are listening to this, because this is such an important point that Alex has made. Her first conversation is all about questions to the client. It's not about you and selling you. It's about really finding out about the client. And I love that, because I think you're 100% right. We spend too much time talking about ourselves and not enough time talking about our clients.
Yep, 100%. We all love talking about ourselves. Let's face it. However, when you're in a client's home or you're on the call, it's not about you, it's about them. And the person that asks the questions controls the conversation. So if you're asking all of the questions, and not even just property related stuff, get to know who that client is. You can ask personal questions as well. It's about building rapport, because this is the start of potentially a relationship that's going to last many, many, many years.
Yeah. I love that. Talking about relationships, what's your biggest lead source at the moment, or I suppose over your career?
Over my career, the biggest source is within the business. So either from the sales team or from the property management team. I mean, here we've got a big sales team. We're very lucky, and in the area that I work, it's very transactional. So there's people quite often buying and selling, even with the ebbs and flows of the market. And then as a business, we look after 3,200 managements at the moment. So that is a huge existing database that we can canvass. And a lot of the relationships that the property managers are building are strong, and they start to dig out opportunities as well. So we actually train the property managers in our weekly forums to ask questions with their clients when they're talking as well, to try and dig out those opportunities and then pass them on to us in the new business team, so that we can talk to the client and then look to potentially convert them and perhaps consolidate portfolios or add new properties to their portfolios.
Amazing. I love that with the property management team. How do you nurture your relationship with the sales team? Because we know that sales agents are that transactional focus on the one client. How do you get them on board with you helping the client as well?
Yeah, try and be involved with as much of what they do as you can. So for us, I'm involved in their weekly sales forums. I attend the sales meetings as well. So being in their face as much as possible. There's always room for improvement there, but it's building. If they're your referral source, then nurturing the relationship with them is equally as important as any other person on your database. So it's just being front of mind. I send out a weekly email to them as well, giving them a market update on what we've seen that week, how many inspections that we've had, how many applications we've received, some key highlights for properties that they've referred to the business, or perhaps other snapshots of other properties that have been existing managements that have perhaps got a really good result, or even a not so good result, just to show the reflection of where the things are sitting in the market at the moment.
Amazing. How do you nurture your potential clients on your database that you haven't signed yet? Because I think that's a big piece as well. That's often a big gap in what we do as BDs.
Yeah, it is a big gap. I think a lot of people, and certainly I've done it in the early stages of my career, you call and you might get an initial rejection, or they might not be ready to go yet, and you kind of just let it go. So being on top of your database is so critically important. We use Rex here at Bresic Whitney. I'm sure that other CRMs work very, very similarly. Constant reminders in the database to follow up. And when I call a client, it's not just to say, hi, how are you? I call with purpose. If I don't have valuable information for them, then what's the point of calling? So whether it's an update on the market, an update of something that's happened in their street or in their building, something that's going to offer them value, not just me calling and asking them for something. I'm giving them something.
Yeah, I love it. Now you've mentioned, and I want to just step back because you've mentioned it a couple of times around collaboration and training with what you do within your team. Can you give us an example of some of the things that you do internally in that space?
Oh, absolutely. A little while back, we changed our meeting format from meetings to forums. So it's a more inclusive and collaborative discussion within the team, rather than a manager standing at the front of the room and talking at us. So we're doing a lot of role plays, both in the property management team as a whole. So the property managers, the leasing execs, new business, admin, we all get together on a weekly basis and talk about what's going on with the market, what's going on within the business, and often do role plays, or at least bounce ideas off one another for perhaps problems that we're experiencing. Dialogue training, that's a really, really big one. And then on top of that, as a new business and leasing team, we get together on a weekly basis separately to the group meeting, and then really, really focus on just our space.
Amazing. So again, for those listening, at least once a week you are doing dialogue training, either yourself, new business team, or whole team.
Yep.
And you've been in the industry for 17 years and you're still doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so important, isn't it? I always have a thing with my clients that you'd never practice dialogue on your clients.
Never. Never.
And you
Much
can
easier.
always improve and always refine it. And I love that you're still, after so many years of experience, still, practicing that dialogue, fine-tuning it, improving what you're saying with your team and with your clients. It's awesome. Okay. Accountability.
Mm-hmm.
We hate it. As salespeople and BDs, we're never great at accountability. Can you talk to me about how you keep yourself accountable? I know Chantel would be a big part of this, but what do you do around that accountability?
At the end of the day, my success for my career falls on my shoulders, no one else's. So if I want to be successful, if I want to make money, if I want to do really good in this business, it's up to me to do the work. We have one-on-one meetings with our direct reports to run through a personal growth plan. We do a yearly one of those, plus we catch up each month to see how we're tracking and to make sure that we're staying on target. And it's on target to my goals, not just the business's goals. So I've got targets for the business. Our commission is a tiered structure. So the more revenue I make for the business, the more commission I make for myself. So that's an accountability piece in itself. As a salesperson and as a BDE, you're not here for base salary. And if you are, you probably need to rethink your career. We're here to thrive, basically. Apart from the weekly forums and keeping accountable in that sense, it's once a month going back through the personal growth plan and looking at what I can do differently, what have I done that month that's worked well, what have I done that month that hasn't worked well, what am I not doing that I need to do, what am I not seeing that I need to see.
Awesome questions. I love those questions. And you're not just you are obviously very successful with what you do, and that takes up some time, but you've got a little bit of a side hustle, and I want to just talk about that for a minute if I can.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's really important and really interesting, and probably something that a lot of people in the industry don't even know about you. So can you tell us about that, please?
Absolutely. So during COVID, I took a little bit of a hiatus from real estate. I think that when the world sort of got tipped on its shoulders, a lot of people rethought what they were doing, and some people were able to take a break, and I was able to, thankfully, during that time. And over those couple of years, I went on a big personal development and growth journey and was connected with things that I'd never even heard of before, and one of those was breath work, and that's probably been one of the most profound things that have come into my life that's impacted my life for good. So I was invited along to a meditation thing on the beach, and it happened to be this breath work and meditation. Never heard of breath work before. Got into it, really enjoyed it. This particular style of breath work that I've been introduced to and now I teach, it's about releasing emotions. It's not just about calming yourself. So a lot of us know about box breathing and calming breaths, that really nice slow in and out to help calm us down. This is the polar opposite. So it's actually stimulating our sympathetic nervous system, which is that fight or flight kind of mode. But by doing that, we're releasing tension in the body, we're releasing emotion, we're releasing built up trauma that's sort of stored right down in our body. So when I was introduced to that, it just blew my mind, and I felt good even after the first time that I did it. So when the company offered a facilitator training, I jumped on board with that, went through their facilitator 1 and 2 training. So I've worked with anyone from one-on-one clients to groups of 150, 200 people down at the beach, leading a breath work and meditation.
So something that maybe real estate agents can tap into in the space and the that we work in, and the speed that we work in general, probably really important for us to think about something like that, huh?
I think wellness is something that's incredibly important, and I know it's something that you guys work a lot with your clients, and it's more and more spoken about now, which I think is extremely important in this industry. We've been in the industry for a long time. Real estate agents, behind, like, lots of stories behind, real estate agents involve drugs and alcohol as forms of outlets and release. There's a lot of money involved in real estate, which sort of fuels that. And they're unhealthy ways to release. Yeah. We're so go, and there's healthy ways like breath work, like meditation, that you can just take a couple of minutes out of your day to actually get rid of that tension, to come back to centre and connect back to yourself. That doesn't involve doing all of that.
Yeah, sustainability of self, so important, isn't it?
So important, so important. And if you're not delivering and living from centre, where are you living from? Because it's most likely ego, and that's also not healthy.
Interesting one. Interesting. All right. One more question for you. It's a big question. Last piece of advice to anyone in a BD role or thinking about starting in a BD role. What do you wish you knew when you first started?
Oh, what did I wish that I know when I first started? That it's a long game, and consistency is absolute key to being successful in this business.
Great words of advice. Alex, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us. And to everyone out there, so many words of wisdom there. So enjoy listening.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.